Do you hate when you stop making progress in life? Is it a bummer when your momentum just stops? Well, you're in luck because today's episode we are talking about how to respond to plateaus in life. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yeah,
This is a
this is
good
a
topic. Yeah, you were gonna say the same thing.
definitely we've hit this wall many times.
You know what's funny though? It is like the worst though, because it's like, when you're trying to do stuff, you're making progress, and then like all that stops. And a lot of times, I don't know if it's like I have a hard time telling if it's me that feels so bad about it, or I feel so bad about it because of like social conditioning and stuff like that. Which I mean, it's still me, obviously, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I would say a lot of it is social conditioning. This idea that we're always going to make linear progress, that like anything that's not progress is going backwards. Like it's just this whole like I don't want to blame MBAs, but
it's
I
basically their fault.
kind of yeah,
Well, it
because like
is.
before then people understood there were cycles, you know? Everything goes in cycles. But ever since then, it's supposed to be nonstop progress, always making more money, always have a better year. And it's just like the only thing that does that in a natural sense is cancer. Like that's the only thing in a natural sense that just keeps on
Yeah.
growing.
Well, that is the
Yeah.
problem. And I think part of it too, it's always been a part of like industrialization capitalism, right? Like this idea, and that grow or die mentality. Like if you're not getting bigger, you're done. And
Hmm.
it's really, I think, detrimental for a lot of reasons, obviously, but especially in our own lives, it's really bad too because it makes us feel like taking breaks is bad, right? Like taking time off, being bored is terrible. Like, so this, I think also this feeling probably leads to a lot of the sort of impetus to distract ourselves all the time, right? So that we're not thinking about it and not thinking about how we're not moving forward or making more money or doing something. It's funny.
Yeah.
It reminds me of there was a study I read one time. They were saying that like, I think it was most adults in America after the age of, I think it was like 25, don't have hobbies anymore because they're not something they earn money from, right? Or it's not something that you can, it's just something you do for fun. So it's viewed as like worthless, which is like an insane way to think.
Seriously, because that's where a lot of growth takes place. Like I'm reading Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain right now, and it's a really interesting book because they've totally thrown like all the arts out of school, just gone.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's like half of your brain. And we're just like, oh, that's the non-important half. Like definitely don't need that, but it gives you perspective. Like it
Yeah.
teaches you how to see
Oh
things.
dude, we're
And if you
so
don't have
screwed.
that, you can't see it.
They've gotten rid of the arts and they basically like the humanities are basically dying. Like they're
Like
barely
phys
studied
ed is
anymore.
gone.
Yeah, right. And it's crazy because like you're saying, like arts give you perspective. Like there's been studies that have shown that studying like the humanities, like philosophy and stuff, it makes you more open-minded and makes you better able to think critically, think about things, solve problems. Because you're good at sort of just thinking about stuff for the sake of thinking about it, which does open your
Mhm.
mind. It makes you less judgmental and stuff. So yeah, we have kind of it's kind of scary because we're putting people in a position where they don't have the skill set to deal with problems and then all these problems. It's like kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
seriously.
Yeah.
And another thing about the plateau is it's just boring and it sucks. Like you're making,
Yeah.
see, progress is like a positive feedback loop. Like the more progress you make, the better you feel. And then when it disappears, it feels terrible. It feels just as bad as if you're going backwards, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. We were talking about this, I think, last at the end of last week after we finished was like, it's like we have days where like you'll get a like for whatever reason you get like three things done and it feels great. Like, yeah, I'm doing awesome. Like you feel good, like physically, mentally. And then the next day it's like you hit a wall and it's like all of a sudden all that good feeling is just gone instantly, you
Gone
know?
right out
And
the
this
window.
yeah, this is how I struggle with I think my whole life too is like, there's always times, it seems like pretty much every year or so, or, where I kind of hit these points where like I don't know what to do or which direction to go in or whatever. And it could be I'm burnout or whatever. Um, but it's horrible when it happens. You feel
Hmm.
you feel lost. You feel like you don't know what to do. Maybe you feel like a failure, whatever. And yeah, how do we get over
Hmm.
these, do you think?
And yeah, I think you just need to like allow yourself to be there. Because I mean, momentum's great because momentum will carry you even when you kind of slow down a little bit. But it's not always going to be there. And there's always going to be periods of going sideways and periods of going backwards and all this stuff. But thinking that you're always going to have forward progress just doesn't work.
Yeah, all change isn't growth, right? Sometimes like good positive changes are actually going backwards a little bit, reassessing, doing something
And the
different, you
thing
know?
is, you can't tell until you're looking back. Like you can't tell until you're
Yeah.
looking at it in the rearview mirror why it happened that way, like why it made sense.
Yeah. I think that's always a good thing that does help me is like trying to remind myself too that a lot of times like these things that I'm feeling now or like the way I'm interpreting something will change in the future. You know, when I look back on it with
Oh.
perspective and time, you'll probably see it differently. Because I mean, most of us have that, right? Where like something seemingly horrific happens, but then later on in life we look back and we're like, oh, I'm so glad that happened because that enabled me to not go down this route and be this and be miserable, but to actually change careers or to do this or to
But to
find
go
a new
down this
plan.
other route and be
Yeah,
miserable.
yeah. It gave me a chance to be miserable in a different way,
I
in a
got to
different
try
path.
out a different route in life.
I think too, like but I always like Nietzsche's idea too that like, in order to create values and like to create our own meaning, we have to experiment with different ways of living, different ways of doing things, different ways of thinking. And so it's also a way to kind of treat it as like a chance to experiment. Like if you hit a plateau, you can find something new to do or try something else out. Because I know personally for me, sometimes, usually when I hit these, usually I need a break. And once I admit that, it goes a lot better. And two, usually there are opportunities to do something different. Because like if you're burnt out on if you're burnt yourself out doing something, you can do something new and actually get, you know, a different look at things and try something else out. Maybe develop a new hobby.
Yeah, definitely. I've been I've been trying to catch myself more recently with like the HALT acronym, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Because I
Which is the
noticed that
reason why we
like,
feel terrible.
yeah, yeah. And I always say it's not my fault, PHALT, because in pain,
Yeah.
hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So I'm like, it's not my fault. But I try and remind myself because that's when I usually feel down and like I feel like I'm making no progress and I feel like all this stuff. It's usually because I'm hungry and I'm tired and I'm lonely and probably in pain as well.
Yeah.
And definitely some repressed anger. So it's like all of them are lighting up.
It's funny. It's so funny how much just being tired and hungry can just makes you miserable, right? It
Hmm.
like, and it makes it, it's funny. I notice more and more, I don't know if it's just getting older or whatever, but when I'm tired, I have no capacity to deal with things either. I realize that,
Hmm.
like, we're like, before I could, push through, I guess sometimes, but now I just don't have it. Like, I can't, in me, it's not there. It's like I'm physically exhausted. It's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough. But here's another thing. You remember like the book Feeling Great and everything like that, how he
Hmm.
talks about the cognitive distortions.
Yeah.
So like when you feel like you've lost momentum and you're not making any progress whatsoever and your whole life is a waste and all this stuff, it's usually some type of black or white thinking or some type of like
Yeah.
perfectionism that's rearing its ugly head. Because it's not like everything in your life is stalled. That doesn't
No.
happen. Like you're still growing, you're still aging, you're still like I'm sure there are still some areas in your
Your
life that are getting
relationships,
better.
right? And,
Yeah.
there's all these things. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just this like it's this one area that you're magnifying, you're blowing it out of proportion, you're making it all or nothing. Like just because it's not at 100, it's clearly a zero. And
That is
so
funny though, but we do that all the time, right? It's like, we really narrow focus on one thing, and we're like, well, just because I'm not good at that, I'm a failure. And it's like, well, what about all these other things that you know how to do, and all these other things that you've done, and all these people,
mhm.
whatever. Yeah, we really lose perspective in those moments and just focus on just narrow things. It's terrible. It's
Yeah,
hard to
it's
get out of
really
it too.
challenging because it's very easy to deceive ourselves.
It is. Yes, it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, being self
Yeah.
compassionate with yourself is helpful too when this happens, I think. Just like realizing that,
Hmm.
maybe you do take a step back and maybe,
Yeah.
you know. But I think also too, and you mentioned that too, with being, focusing really in on things too. That's where those comparisons are bad that we make all the time. And I think we're more
Hmm.
prone to do it too. Like when you
And we're
hit a
not
plateau,
comparing ourselves to like the person with no legs
no,
living in like the slums of Calcutta. We're
no,
comparing ourselves to like the cherry-picked best part of everyone we've ever heard of.
yeah. Which cracks me up too, because we never know the person's whole life. And
Mhm.
most of these people are also miserable. So it's not like they
Yeah.
figured anything out.
Or even, even like some people, maybe their lives are great, but you know what? That's not the majority of people.
No. The
And
majority of
it's,
people have problems, man, and you have to deal with
yeah.
them. And there's ups and
Yeah.
downs. And it's
Hmm.
also hard too because we hit these plateaus, I think, for reasons sometimes that aren't even like, or for factors that might not be due to us, right? Things change in the world.
Hmm.
The outside world shifts or, things change and all of a sudden you find yourself maybe unable to do something you wanted to do. And so you have to also
Yeah.
realize that as well. Like, it's also not your fault. These things happen.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like trying to cut your losses at some point. Like we recognized a while ago that social media and the news, they just don't like they're not a net positive in our lives. So we just kind of got rid of them. But it's like another thing, comparing yourself to other people. Like maybe their life is better than yours, but comparing yourself to it and going over it again and again in your head is never going to make your life better.
Nope.
There's nothing that you can do in your head that'll make you feel better about it. So it's just one of these things that you just got to stop.
It is a weird phenomenon too, though, isn't it? That we do all these things that don't help us and make us feel terrible all the time, yet we continue to do them. It's so weird. Like, doom scrolling or,
Well, dude,
making these
we're just a
comparisons.
bunch. I mean, we're just a bunch of addicts.
We
Like we're
are.
just trying to get these pleasure centers because, even though it feels terrible, there's still like the little bit of bittersweet stuff that's like, ah, it's so terrible, but oh, it feels good to feel
It's
that
like,
terrible.
did you ever see like a documentary, you see like the animals and like they'll find like the fermented fruit and they all keep going back there and like hang out there, That's basically, it's basically
Yep.
it with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, we're all just seeking pain, avoiding, or no, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's kind of the way life goes.
Yeah. And it's hard because I think there's so much stuff out there too telling you that. I think the other hard part is like the whole world's telling you too constantly that, you have to grow, you have to be better, you have to do this, perfection, blah, blah, blah. And that can make it really difficult too to like see clearly a situation. We're
Yeah.
confronted by
And,
it so
and
often.
another part of the plateau is just like that's also kind of part of the journey. Like we've encountered this time and time again where like the middle portion of stuff just sucks. Like in the
Yes.
beginning, you're terrible, but you don't know how terrible you are, and it's just exciting and new and everything's great. And then
Yeah.
there's just this long, lengthy middle plateau where it's like some days you make progress, some days you move backwards. It's pretty
Yeah.
much just going sideways for a long, 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 long time. And then eventually you get to the end and that's like, woo, a rush, and then it's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I was gonna say I think that's a good way to look at it too, because the middle is usually also when you figure things out. Like especially if you're learning something, right? Like you said, like the beginning's always exciting, but you don't know enough about it to really know what's going to be hard or even know what you like in that area, right? So it's that middle where you figure it out, and that's where it is going to be slow, and there's going to be detours and plateaus, and just it's going to take
Hmm.
time. But we're always in such a rush. We never really nobody appreciates the journey or the time it takes to get to places. We're so fixated on, oh, the 22-year-old billionaire and blah 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 and all this crap that like we don't see anything else beyond that, and so we don't look at the whole life. I think that's kind of our
Yeah.
problem. Yeah,
Well, it's this whole concept that like money is the end all be all.
yeah, right.
Like
It's like the
I
idea it's
like
like God.
yeah. I like that song by Nirvana. I think it's like is it called Plateau? I don't know. But it says nothing on the top but a bucket and a mop and an illustrated book about birds.
Yeah,
And I just always remind myself because we're always rushing to get to the top. But then like you get there and there literally is nothing on top. Like
no,
I mean we've both achieved things in our lives and like you get there and it flashes by in a moment and then you're on to the next thing. And so it is just like the top, there's nothing there. And even,
what?
with money, with success, with fame, there's nothing there.
But that's why
But
people
we
get
just keep
addicted to
chasing
it,
it.
right? They get addicted to getting more money because you keep getting that feeling, or addicted to getting like, it's like the people that go out and do all these talks and win all these awards. It's like there's an addiction there too, right? Because there's this constant validation that you're the
Hmm.
best or you're really good at this or whatever.
That you're good enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I think this is one of our problems is we're constantly looking outside ourselves for validation rather than feeling validated or feeling self-confident ourselves or having that confidence to not need it or not require it to feel like we've done something. And
Hmm.
that's a huge one too, right? Because I think that's a difficult one to deal with. It's also, I think, something that affects everybody. And it's because
Hmm.
we're taught early on, right? You get your grades, you bring your report card home, yay, everybody happy,
Hmm.
and I think that kind of just reinforces that over and over. So it is hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeez. Gee whiz. So, anyways, we're just silly monkeys who are just
Stuck.
in a bad way. In a bad way. My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, there you have it. If you're on a plateau, if you've lost momentum, you're not alone.
No. And
We've
it'll
all
be
been there.
okay.
We'll be
It'll
there
change.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually it'll change. You'll gain some momentum. You'll start going downhill or uphill or whatever, and things will change. But we definitely feel for you if you're stuck in those periods of no momentum, because it's a tough period to get through.
It sucks. It does. Yeah. It absolutely does.
Yeah, so anyways, that's all for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we got hundreds of other episodes. You can check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.